You know who's really not a fucking communist or a Marxist or anything remotely close to a socialist? The Squad, who ran on these things like, oh, I'm a socialist, I'm this, the DSA, brand new Congress, just Democrats. All these people, they literally, the Squad, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Jamal Bowman, Ayanna Presley, all voted to impose sanctions on Cambodia.
No.
And
fucking bastards.
I'm just going to read a little bit of this article that kind of goes into what this means. But then I'm going to go over the bill itself and show you guys the votes. So, fresh sanctions could entrench the Cambodian government's determination to free itself from outside interference. So earlier this week, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the Cambodia Democracy Act, which it's wrong. It's terrible when it has democracy.
The title alone, you're like, oh shit, where's the lube? Because they're going to try to fuck you right into you know what.
Which recommends the imposition of sanctions on senior Cambodian officials responsible for undermining the country's democracy. Because the United States knows what is best for Cambodia's democracy.
Yeah.
The Cambodian Democracy Act of 2021, which was proposed by Steve Chabot, a Republican from Ohio, and Lowenthal, a Democrat from California, bipartisanship, is intended to promote free and fair elections, political freedom, and human rights in the nation. None of these things that the U.S. espouses to its own citizens. After 5 years that have seen a ruthless consolidation of power by the ruling Cambodian People's Party, the CPP. Over the past 5 years, the CPP administration has banned the country's main opposition party, the Cambodian National Rescue Party, exiled one of its leaders, and arrested another on charges of treason. It also has cowed Cambodian civil society and neutered the independent press, arresting dozens of human rights defenders, low-level CNRP officials, and ordinary citizens for expressing critical views about the government. This screams like an NED, NGOs going over there to fund some sort of color revolution. This crackdown left the CPP free to run virtually unopposed at the 2018 election, in which it handily won all 125 seats in the National Assembly, extending Prime Minister Hun Sen's rule deep into its fourth decade. In response, the bill requires the government to identify officials of the government, military, or security forces who President Joe Biden determines. Because Joe Biden is now the president of Cambodia, I guess, interim president.
Yeah.
Who he determines has directly and substantially undermined democracy in Cambodia or committed or directed serious human rights violations associated with undermining democracy in Cambodia. So then these officials will be subject to sanctions, including asset freezes and travel bans, which will remain in place until meaningful progress towards ending government efforts to undermine democracy. Do you see how stupid and broad this is? And ending human rights violations associated with undermining democracy. Congress has a long history of activism on Cambodian human rights issues, very often led by representatives of states with large Cambodian American constituencies, and has established close relationships with members of the Cambodian opposition. This has limited attempts of the executive branch to build and sustain constructive relationships with Phnom Penh. This was particularly the case during the period immediately after 9/11 attacks, when engagement with Hun Sen's government was seen as necessary in order to advance security and counterterrorism goals. Cambodia is increasingly increasingly close relationship with China has recently made it a subject of broad concern, bringing the executive and legislative branches into closer alignment.
There it is.
Since the 2018 election, the U.S. government has imposed sanctions on close allies of Hun Sen and his family. And the similarly named Cambodia Democracy and Human Rights Act, which calls for more sanctions on senior Cambodian officials, has also been tabled in the Senate. The Cambodian government has responded with efforts to bolster its image in the United States. The passage of the bill by the House just came days after the Cambodian government signed a contract with the D.C.-based firm Corvus Communications to, quote, provide strategic communications and media relations services in support of increasing public awareness, along with travel and tourism for the Kingdom of Cambodia. This follows the signing of contracts with other lobbyists in 2009. So these sanctions are unlikely to achieve much except sour relations between Washington and Phnom Penh. In a recorded speech in the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly, held virtually on the 25th of September, Sen cited the recent U.S. debacle in Afghanistan in order to condemn foreign interference in other nations' affairs. He said, history has told us time and time again that foreign interference and even worse, military options used to impose different systems of governance are not solutions, he said. Far from it, they have only led to many more deaths, human suffering and misery, and socioeconomic strife. He added, if the recent events in Afghanistan and many more before that are lessons to be learned from, then we must learn that there's great merit to respecting the wishes of each nation and their people's rights to self-determination. Why can't we fucking do that?
To self-determination.
This article says, of course, Cambodia's people have been largely deprived of this right to self-determination through the evisceration of any and all sources of effective opposition to the CCP, which give Hun Sen's remarks a decidedly hollow ring. So this is written from the perspective of U.S. empire. But the Cambodian leader's remark hint at the interconnected nature of U.S.-China-Cambodia relationship, which is to say the Cambodian government's interrelationship with Beijing cannot be understood in isolation from the 3 decades of concerted efforts by Western governments, particularly Washington, to promote democratic norms in Cambodia, a project that the CPP administration has viewed incorrectly, but not unsurprisingly, given the history of U.S. policy towards Cambodia. So there you go. So, I mean, this is they're drawing a red line to anything that has empowered their enemies, and this is just terrible. This is just, again, the United States just interfering with Cambodia. Yeah. I'm not 1,000% all caught up on Cambodia's government, but based on what was said, they have offered zero specifics as to what Cambodia has really done. Yeah. As if the United States cares about human rights violations they're committed every fucking day here in America right now. And we it's all about fucking China and how the Chinese are going in there and having a relationship with Cambodia. This is absolutely nothing about democracy to Cambodia. They could give two shits about freedom of speech and your civil liberties here. So they're not going to give two shits about people in fucking Cambodia.
So I'm going to suspect that there's a lot of businesses set up in Cambodia because it was an impoverished nation as far as like sweat factories, maybe a lot of your clothes and whatnot. I know Laos, Vietnam, I took that on. And I was born in 1973. So I remember like when I was born, it was like the end of the Vietnam War and whatnot. But I was always intrigued about why, and I couldn't understand why Nixon started dropping bombs with Kissinger in Cambodia and Laos. Well, what we did, and Johnny, we'll probably take you 2 seconds to fucking Google anything. If you just go Nixon bombing Laos or Nixon bombing Cambodia, what we did to these countries here, what we did to these people, we dropped these gases on these people that have fucking made them have deformities for years, and then we got up and we walked away like nothing fucking happened. There was a documentary made not too long ago said this little land of mines, and our good friend what's his name, News to Share, help us out.
Oh, Ford Fisher.
Mm-hmm. His friend actually fucking, there he is, Nixon pointing to Cambodia. His friend actually produced that movie. There are so many mines that are still active in Laos to this fucking day that kids walk on them, they step on them, they kill themselves, and the United States has taken no responsibility to go in there and fucking remove them whatsoever. But now we want to sit here and virtue signal and acting like we're going to bring fucking democracy. We've never cared about Cambodia, Laos, and these countries. We've always wanted them fucking destabilized because we can go in there and we can put fucking cheap labor in there and benefit off it for American fucking goods. So whatever the case may be, like you said, you're not up to Cambodia's government, neither am I. But I can tell you this fucking much, in my Ron Paul fucking mentality, in my Mike Gravel fucking mentality, just plain get out.
They have the right to self-determination. Why? I mean, it's just so vague. They're not saying, oh, look at these specific acts of human rights abuses, even if they were. Right, but they're not, because it's all about the economics and the posturing with China and all of this. China. I mean, we have so many ships surrounding China right now. It's insane. Yeah. So
real quick, yeah. So, Paz, you're talking about Cambodia. I mean, I remember I saw this Instagram ad about people selling recycled bombshell necklaces.
Look at that.
So that exists. So if you look up necklaces made from bombs in Cambodia, that's a thing. There's all this jewelry being made from the
we're gonna solve the problems we caused.
Like,
dude,
look at this.
And we got up and walked away like, look at this is crazy. We got up and walked away like it was nothing. Like it was nothing. We didn't give a fuck. We just, all right, we're done, gone. We left the country the way it is and stuff. So I don't give a fuck what the hell this government is like. We need to just plain get the fuck out. It's not our fucking part of the world. to even be dealing with these people? Haven't we done enough damage? Look at that. Yeah, get that picture right there. This is what we did to Cambodia and Laos. Right fucking there. What we did was disgusting. Who are we to say that we're doing some type of humanitarian fucking process over here in fucking Cambodia? Give me a break, people.
Apparently it was Operation Menu. The bomb in Cambodia was part of Nixon's madman theory that was meant to intimidate North Vietnam by showing that he was a dangerous leader capable of anything.
Because they wanted to intimidate the communists.
Yep.
Yep.
Fucking Nixon.
It's all about going after the communists, guys. I mean, I just, and so the important point to note, back to, you know, our domestics, foreign policy, domestic policy, completely intertwined. The squad who ran on anti-imperialism, especially people like AOC, especially like people like Ilhan Omar, who is an immigrant, right? And Jamal Bowman, a person of color. Right? Ayanna Presley, another person of color. Intersectional fascism, intersectional imperialism. They voted yes on this to sanction. AOC's a fucking imperialist. She is a baby warmonger, baby Hillary Clinton. Her votes have been absolutely disastrous. She makes Cori Bush look like the most progressive Congress member, and Rashida Tlaib as well, who voted no. And here it is, HR 4686. It is an act, right, on the 117th Congress. This is the first session. And it's to promote free and fair elections, political freedoms, and human rights in Cambodia, and for other purposes. Please begin promoting free elections for real in your country first.
Yeah.
A Cambodia Democracy Act of 2021, and it says Prime Minister Hun Sen has been in power in Cambodia since 1985 and is the longest serving leader of Southeast Asia. Despite decades of international attention and assistance to promote a pluralistic multi-party democratic system in Cambodia, the government of Cambodia continues to be undemocratically dominated by the ruling of Cambodia People's Party, CPP, which is communist, and which controls every agency and security apparatus of the state. 2. The government of Cambodia has taken several measures, particularly since 2017 and during COVID-19 pandemic, to restrict Cambodia's space for civil society and media environment, especially through politicized tax investigations against independent media outlets. Maybe they're fucking fighting back against the fucking Western propaganda that these NGOs are trying to come in with. I don't know. Yeah. That's probably what's happening.
And this is how they sell a lot of Republicans on this shit too as well. It's the CCP. We got to get rid of it. It's communism.
And to the left, they're stopping the journalists or hurting the dissidents. Oh no, we have to stop that and involve them. Do you see what they do here?
Women's rights in Cambodia, fam.
Exactly. On September 3rd, 2017, Kern Soka, the president of the Cambodia National Rescue Party, that is the Cambodia National Rescue Party. Are you serious right now?
Sounds like an NGO.
Was arrested on politically motivated charges and faces up to 30 years in prison. And the Supreme Court dissolved the CNRP, eliminating the primary opposition party. While Kem Sokha is no longer in prison, his movements are restricted. He is prohibited from engaging in political activity, and his charges remain pending. The CNRP's previous leader, Sam Rainsy, remains in an unofficial exile, blah, blah, blah. And so they're talking about the government of Cambodia has arrested, imprisoned, and brought politically motivated charges against CNRP. You could take this, copy, paste it, and talk about how Putin is imprisoning all these people and how Assad is gassing all these people. Do you see what they're doing?
It might not be the best strategy, though, because then the sanctions come, right?
No, but Johnny, you have to understand, like, this is what always happens. This is what they say about Cuba, right? Yeah. Fidel Castro has been in power for decades and stuff. Why? Why does this happen? Why do these countries have people that remain in power? Why do these countries start, taking what we would call authoritarian stances? Because if they fucking didn't, the United States goes in there with their fucking NGOs, overthrows their democratically elected fucking leaders, and imposes their own fucking puppet regimes. So if I am going to put myself in the position of somebody that is in direct opposition to a gigantic, the most powerful empire in the world, with military bases all over the world, I'm going to do whatever it fucking takes to keep their fucking claws off my fucking country. And I might do things that are going to say, okay, look, we need to be careful with these fucking people. They're fucking NGOs. They're fucking Western propaganda. We saw what they did in Hong Kong. We've seen what they've done with the whole story about the Uyghurs. I mean, I'm not saying that that any leader or empire is perfect or any fucking country is perfect, that they're fucking angels. I'm saying that they do have to take different tactics to protect themselves from the Buddha U.S.
Right.
imperialism. Because if Cuba
Yeah.
hadn't conducted itself the way it's conducted itself, believe me, Cuba would be a fucking U.S. colony. Look how close it is to the land of the United States.
Yeah.
The reason they have survived is because of the actions they have taken. And if you think that's
Yeah.
authoritarian, I
Well-
disagree, because I think that is fighting the empire, right?
I
think
just look at
that's-
how Maduro did it, with
Yeah.
Guaido. He
Yeah.
didn't jail him. He didn't do anything. I just let him be a goon on the streets of fucking
Yeah.
Venezuela. But Maduro has control of the military,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why it worked. in
China
that
China
case.
exercised restraint too in Hong Kong, and it was at them just up until just recently they started cracking down on a lot of stuff because they wanted to get the Western influence out there. But they exercised some great restraint when it came to Hong Kong too as well, allowing Jimmy Lai and all these guys to be around. To do whatever they want and try to fight them in the public court, in the public opinions court, right? Like let's fight these guys. Let's show that these guys are corrupt and whatnot. And you're right, Guaido is a great example and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they still got sanctioned though.
Yeah.
And they're still,
still
and they're getting
Yeah.
sanctioned, and a lot of people are blaming Maduro because of that. So,
Yeah.
Since 1991, this part I want to read: the elections that have taken place in Cambodia, listen to the reasoning, were conducted in circumstances that were not free, fair, and credible, or were marked by fraud, intimidation, violence, and the government's misuse of legal mechanisms to weaken opposition candidates
is that the
and
United
parties.
States?
Yeah, are you talking about the United States?
States?
Because I mean,
Fucking sham of
we
elections.
haven't had fucking fair and free elections in forever. The United States is committed to promoting democracy, human rights, and the rule of law in Cambodia. The United States continues to urge the government of Cambodia to immediately drop charges against Kem Sokha, to reinstate the political state of the CNRP, and restore its elected seats. Why does the United States get a fucking say in what Cambodia fucking does?
In Cambodia.
I just can't even. I'm not even gonna continue. Why do you fucking get? Why do we have to get a say? Do you call? Do you go to
We're
your neighbor's
Captain
house?
America.
Go in their house and say, "Hey, I'm gonna fuck your wife. I'm gonna kill your dog. I'm gonna eat your lunch for breakfast.
But I'm doing it for your
tomorrow,
own benefit.
And this is for your benefit." That's what we fucking do. We literally do that every fucking day. I am so sick and tired of how they try to twist this shit. And so this is what it says, Section 3, sanctions relating to undermining democracy in Cambodia. In general, no later than 180 days after the date of the enactment of this act, the president shall designate and transmit to the appropriate congressional committees a list of each senior official of the government, military, or security forces of Cambodia who the president determines has directly and substantially undermined democracy in Cambodia. So whoever Biden determines has undermined democracy must be put on a list and given to Joe Biden, okay, about Cambodia. I mean, this is insane. Each senior official of the government, military, or security forces of Cambodia who the president determines has committed or directly serious human rights violations, each entity's owned or controlled by these senior officials, impositions on sanctions, and then the president shall transmit to the appropriate congressional committees updated lists under paragraph 1 as new information becomes available. The president shall exercise all the powers granted to the president under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. To the extent necessary to block and prohibit all transactions in property and interests of the property of foreign person designated by Joe Biden, that blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, so it just goes on and on to talk about it. But I just wanted to point that out.
Who voted for this shit again? Which one of these
fucking squad.
The whole squad?
No. So we have a couple people that voted nay. So it's much easier to view the nays than it is the yays. Look at our fucking, the fucking imperialists that
Matt
run our
Gates is
country.
nay.
So nay.
Thomas Massey's gay.
Corey
nay.
Bush,
Sorry, not gay.
Matt Gates, Harris, maybe? I think no, Harris is Congress. So some other Harris, Rashida Tlaib, Thomas Massey.
Yeah.
And
Maxine Waters. Wow.
Maxine
look at
Waters.
That. Not voting ho. So hold on.
But
who's not voting? I just want to say all the way on the bottom.
not voting.
Is that Dick Cheney?
Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney.
Probably wasn't there. And Jim Jordan, McClintock, McGovern, Jerry Nadler. So they just probably weren't there.
And sometimes they take turns, and I'll tell you why right now. But you can see Ocasio-Cortez, yes. Ilhan Omar, yes. Katie Porter, I think, yes.
Yes.
All these cucks that are
wait,
the
Adam Schiff, yes.
They didn't even need to.
Let's
they didn't
see.
even need to vote yes.
You know.
It doesn't. This is what I'm saying. They do it because they want to fucking do it in a lot of these.
See, this is one of those votes that if Tulsi Gabbard was still in office, it would be a definite no. And you know that shit.
Kana.
Yeah.
Rokfin.
Yes.
Yes.
Rokfin, yes. But the Congresswoman would vote definitely no on this one. So I mean,
This is just fucking like, it's so disgusting, dude. The majority of people, look, 209 Democrats to 194 Republicans.
More Democrats. More Republicans voted no.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just
because they
disgusting.
put the fucking democracy. We're promoting democracy. These idiots are so stupid. If you guys read that right now, and you read all of that, in the audience too, right? If you guys read all of that, would you vote yes on this? No, you wouldn't, because you have more fucking knowledge than literally 98% of fucking Congress right now. You're more anti-imperialist than 98% of Congress. Run for fucking office. Let's take it over. I don't fucking know. But these people are a bunch of imperialists, and it gets worse because this is what they do. Thomas Massey, by the way, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush voted no on it. But I want to read this status from Samira Khan, because this is just
to go to it.
It's weird. It's not letting us go to it. But this is what happens. So it's the second one.
Yeah.
So, Pasta, you can go ahead and read that because they take turns.
Hi, Samira. For a long time since we read one of your tweets over here. Just minutes before the KMH sanctions, squad voted on LBY sanctions. Is that Liberia or Libya? Is it Libya or Liberia? It's probably Libya.
Liberia? What's Liberia?
Liberia is another country in Africa. It's probably Libya. Yeah.
Let me double check.
There's a country called Liberia. I hope so. I'm making an ass out of myself over here. Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, it's Libya, fam.
It's Libya, but there is a Liberia, right? Please tell me there is. So who? Really quickly. So we have Ocasio-Cortez, yes on Cambodia, but no on Libya. Ilhan Omar, yes on both. Ayanna Presley, yes on both. Tlaib, no on both. Bowman, yes on Cambodia, no on Libya. And Bush,
no on both.
Which Bush is that?
Cori.
Oh, sorry, Cori. So look, well, Tlaib and Cori, I guess they're less anti-imperialist than Presley and Omar.
They've definitely as far as
they're voting no. They're less anti.
From what
they're more
I've seen,
anti-imperialist. You're right.
Yeah, they're more anti-imperialist, but they've been
less
voting.
Imperialist.
They've been voting way better. I've been keeping my eye on the squad. They've been voting way better than AOC, Ilhan Omar, Presley.
Yes, but Rashida Tlaib
on
on fucking Hamas.
Yeah,
Nope.
Yeah.
We don't stand by Hamas. No with Hamas. Like you
as
should
a
be
Palestinian,
you should be saying Israel created Hamas.
That was like a fucking
Ron Paul
cop-out.
has to say it.
She should have said something. But yeah, that was, guys. I just want to pointed that tweet out because while they voted no in Libya, a lot of them they voted yes on that. They kind of take turns, and that's something that Samira pointed out. And again, guys, sanctions are an act of a type of war.
They're an act of war.
They're and so it's wrong, and you would never see any of us vote for yes on sanctions. The only type of sanction I would ever fucking vote on, there's one fucking exception. You already know what that is. BDS. And that is only because we give billions of dollars to Israel. Billions of dollars. And I would make it so we don't give the billions of dollars to Israel. So I don't want the Israeli people to suffer. So I would find a way to fucking work around that, to just, to fucking find a way to work around that. I don't know if that would be possible, but Palestinians, what they're doing to them is something that I really care about, and it needs to stop. It needs to fucking stop. So that's the only fucking exception I fucking make on sanctions.
Well, South Africa. That was good sanctions when they said they want to end the apartheid. Over there. So that's a good example. There's a good example of that for sanctions. But that's when you're telling you're going on an oppressive regime, and you're telling the oppressive regime that's being openly oppressive regime,
not like something that you're saying. Oh,
yeah, we're gonna put sanctions on you. You let Mandela out of jail, all this kind of thing. You let the people. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, there are some examples of that. But once again, 9.9 times out of 10, sanctions are about punishing a country that's not acting in our corporation's best interest, and that's just the bottom fucking line.